Today we've got a very special truck in Repower Garage. We've got this 1962 Ford F-100 powered by a Cummins R2.8 Turbo Diesel that has been in storage for about a year. So we're gonna do our part to clean it up, do some maintenance on it, get it running, and on the road for car show season. Welcome to Repower Garage. All right, we've got the F-100 finally up on the lift. That was not as easy of a task as one might think. Because this thing has an 8-speed, 8 HP automatic transmission, when the battery is dead, completely dead in this, there's no quick way to get the thing to neutral, just like the big trucks. Sometimes you might be easier to take the drive shaft out so you can roll it. I used floor dollies on this, which for our hot rodders out here, they're great if you have a smooth floor. I do not have a smooth floor. This is an old machine shop. So it took a lot of doing. I also don't have air conditioning, so good morning workout here. So now that thing's up in the air, let's have a look underneath and see what this has in store for us. One thing in particular you'll notice with SEMA cars is they try to keep the engine bay super clean. These builders did an awesome job with that. It really highlighted things included with the crate engine kit, but what that meant was you have to put that stuff somewhere else, including the battery, the oil filter, the fuel filter, the air conditioning. So all of that on this truck went underneath on the frame rails. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of wheelbase of this truck, and that stuff took up a lot of real estate, and it ended up kind of in the center point of the frame. This thing went on power tour and had some other road miles, and although it's low miles, it looks like maybe it bottomed out a couple times in a few spots, and unfortunately, one of those spots is the fuel filter. So you'll see that the water and fuel sensor is broken, the bottom of the filter's caved in, and it's lucky for whoever is driving it that that fuel filter still held a seal, and the truck could still run and it wasn't leaking fuel, so someone got lucky. The other thing you'll note is the battery is on the frame rail on this. That battery sat for a long time, it was hard to take a charge, and I'm gonna see if I can salvage it with a maintenance cycle, but it is not the easiest truck to jumpstart, hence the wheel dollies since the 8-speed was stuck in park. So now that we're up in the air, let's get into this and see what we're working with. So lots of options out there for oil and filters and all that, but with My personal stuff, I just keep it simple. If it's a Cummins, I look for something with the Cummins on it. So I got Valvoline Premium Blue. Depending on the vehicle or the season, I will change the weight. This one, I'm going with a bit heavier weight, which is fine because it's only going to be driven in hot weather. We're not getting this thing out in the winter, I'm guessing. And my personal roper in the winter, I go down to a 10W30 Premium Blue Valvoline, but super easy. Just look for the one with the C on it. I'm using some Diesel Clean cetane boost in this just because I don't know how old the fuel is. It seems to be okay, but a little injector cleaner and fuel system lube. Again, it's got the C on it, the Cummins logo, so you are good to go there. And then easiest place to get these filters, if you go to shop.cummins.com and type in R2.8, you'll see all these options, short, middle, tall. You'll see the fuel separator, the FS fuel filter number, and then you'll see a bunch of other options. So if you are needing to tailor your engine a bit for your application, or it's just time for some maintenance, check out shop.cummins.com, because that's the only place you can guarantee that you're getting genuine off the internet. One thing I noticed when I was doing the inspection after I got the battery tray out is the main starter wire and the main power distribution wire are both passing through a hole in the frame rail. There appears to be some extra sheathing on these cables, but they've already been cut through because there's nothing on the edge of the hole. So it's rattling against bare metal. So super important when you're doing things like this. And I know this is a bit of a unique application, but for your own, if you have power cables, make sure that they're not rubbing against anything that could cut the cable, because this would be 12 volts going to a ground, and that would not be good. Quick inspection of the front end. I did observe a little bit of coolant here, which is on the bottom of the rack. Looked up and I saw another little bit of coolant on the bottom of the pulley, and looking all the way through, it looks like it might just be a loose clamp on the thermostat housing. So I'm gonna get that all wiped down and cleaned up and see what's going on there. It looks like we may have some power steering seepage as well. So we'll see if we can address that and make sure there's no puddles under this thing. There's nothing worse than when you're driving a cool project and there's an annoying rattle. This truck, like I said, did have one that I think is the battery box, so we'll adjust that. But I also noticed that one of our coil-over locking nuts in this truck has come loose. I know that we had worked with the builder after SEMA to say, hey, we gotta lift the front of this thing up a little bit. So it may have been something that just backed off over time, or something that in the hustle and bustle that was forgotten about. But I'm sure if we had fixed that battery box noise, then this would be the next thing we would hear. So anyway, always double check your work. All right, I've just installed the short oil filter. So this LF16121 gets us above the frame rail here. So one less thing that could potentially high center if this thing is out driving around or goes on another cruise or whatever like that. Good habit here, a lot of farmers do it, fleet managers, maintenance directors, but you at home can do the same thing if you're not already. Once you put a filter on, take a Sharpie, wipe your filter down, put the date and the mileage on of when that was installed. And that'll help you, especially if you've got a bunch of cars or projects, or you don't know who's gonna maintain the thing next. They'll at least know how old the filter is and when it needs changed next. So just a little tip. So still looking as I'm going through this for any other sources of rattling or anything annoying. Since this is a super low mileage build, you always wanna be checking for things that have loosened up over time, and retighten them, from exhaust clamps to charge boots, just the stuff that after that initial break-in might get loose. One big piece I saw here is e-brake cable. So there is no emergency brake pedal in this truck. but they do have it cabled all the way to the rear calipers. So without tension on this, it is constantly loose. And I'll figure out what we want to do for that. In the interim, I can quiet it down with some rubber hose or something like that. I highly recommend on any of these builds, don't skimp on the e-brake. You can YouTube videos of hot rodders who have lap belts and no e-brake, and it's not fun. So I don't care if the pedals don't look cool in the cab, always do an e-brake. Next up, we've got our battery replacement. So the old battery came out, it wouldn't take a charge, wouldn't take a jump. Maintenance cycle didn't do anything for it, and it tested bad ultimately. So replacement battery in hand now. You got to do a minimum of 800 cold cranking amps for these R2.8s. And in a truck like this, you know, you're not going to have big winter cycles or anything like that. But in daily drivers, cold climates, and all that stuff with a grid heater, you definitely want to be able to have at a minimum 800 cold cranking amps. We're also going to address those cables passing through the frame rail that we looked at. I've got an easy trick for that, using some rubber hose, and we'll get that squared away too. So during any kind of routine maintenance or even just checking your fluids, it's a good habit to throw a ratchet on those charge boot clamps. Even if they feel hand tight, you don't think they've loosened up, there's a good chance that, especially if they're still breaking in, that they can loosen up over time and you will lose boost. Another thing that I noticed on this truck, and I see on a lot of builds online, is really inadequate air filtration. Sometimes it's necessity, it's fitment. In the case of this truck, it's a SEMA truck, so it's not like it's going out in the backwoods of Alabama down dirt roads or going on Ultimate Adventure or anything like that. So it's really important, read the manual on this. There are Fleet Guard filters out there. There are lots of options. We'll do a deeper dive in a future episode about filtration. We've got a truck in the shop that we'll be putting a pretty awesome filter setup on from Fleet Guard. I'm pretty excited about it. So anyway, just pay attention as you're planning your build. If you already have a build, you know, really check it out. This truck, even though it's small and it's the wrong filter, it's at least in a spot where it's getting cool air. So more on that in another episode. So I did say earlier I saw a little bit of coolant when we were doing the inspection underneath. I think I know where that was coming from. The coolant level is a little bit low, so I'm going to top it off. Per the manual, you can see the spec for the coolant for these 2.8s. Super easy. Again, there's a Valvoline product with Cummins on the bottle. You can flip that bottle around, look at the spec number, and then you have the peace of mind you're not putting the wrong antifreeze in your engine. So I promise I'm not trying to pick on this truck or the people who built it, because it is an awesome build. But some of the things that make the R2.8 different than a traditional gas engine are around the cooling package. And one thing the instructions from Cummins call for is a fully deaerated cooling system. So what that means more or less is that you have a coolant bottle that is a pressurized bottle, and you want that to try to be the highest point in the cooling system. And then you have these points on the engine that loop back to that bottle, so there's never any air in it, and it is a completely closed system. So I think on my Rover, for example, it's like a 20 pound cap. I noticed on this one, it's a 13 pound cap that is just going to an overflow bottle. And that little leak that we saw earlier was on one of the deaeration ports. So that is something that down the road, we might want to address with this. I'd be curious how it does without it, or if it ends up getting coolant overflow, but I'm guessing that's where some of that coolant had gone, is the system just builds up enough pressure that it purges it through the bottle. So keep an eye on that, and if it's something that we can upgrade without ruining the beautiful aesthetic of this engine bay, then we will. So now it's time for the will it start portion of this video. So this is the payoff, right? We have done battery, we have done oil, We've done basic inspection, topped off the coolant. My fuel filter should be here tomorrow, so I'll put the truck back up in the air, get that fuel filter on, and then once we are in good shape, we'll get this thing out and clean it for the big show. I never thought I'd be doing a YouTube video where I wash a truck, but here I go. Finally time for a bath. I'm gonna pull it outside and get her cleaned up, and off to the car show she'll go. All right, the truck is clean, the truck is serviced. So it is time to send it down the road with my friends from Cummins to a car show, but not before it gets one last thing that this truck never had for some reason, and that's its Cummins badges. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and thank you for watching the first episode of Repower Garage. I hope to make a lot more that will be helpful for those of you that are thinking about an R2.8 or might already have an R2.8. If there are certain things you would like to see in upcoming episodes or posts from Repower Garage, please let me know in the comments in this YouTube video or on Facebook or Instagram, and I will try to do my best to get those questions answered for you. Thanks again for watching Repower Garage.